boogeyman.
As a matter of fact, it was.
The third commercial. It's still on, please. Take off the third channel. The third channel. Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it! Stop it!
How can a man do this? Still me.
It isn't a man.
What is he?
Evil.
What happened to the sister? She died, right?
No, she faked her death, hoping and praying every year that her brother won't find her.
Do you know that I pray every night that he would escape?
What the hell do you do that for?
So I can kill him.
The day is here. This is the one, I'm gonna be honest, I was looking forward to the most.
Oddly enough, me too, especially after watching 4 through 6.
Yeah. You know me, I'm a big zombie head. I really like Rob Zombie. I love House of a Thousand Corpses, The Devil's Rejects. I've seen all his other stuff. I love The Munsters even.
Yeah.
So I'm a big Rob Zombie fan, and I'll be honest, when I first saw these movies when I was a dumb adolescent, when these came out, I did not like them. Because I was in that headspace. I think we were talking about fans earlier, where they just think Michael Myers is cool, you know?
Oh,
and
yeah.
I think Rob Zombie humanizes him, which is perfectly okay. But my headspace back then was, what the heck? Michael Myers is scary because he doesn't have a backstory. Oh my god, they ruined his character. What the heck? So I didn't like him. Like, I threw him aside. Growing up, I rewatched the first one quite a bit. Just because it was always on TV. You know, you'd always get excited because, like, fucking AMC on Halloween's like, ooh, Halloween's on, you click it, you're like, oh, it's the Rob Zombie one, okay, whatever, I'll watch it. But I think another reason why I didn't like them was because I always saw them on TV. I never saw the unrated cuts.
Yeah.
And then when I got this Halloween collection that has both the Rob Zombie movies unrated cuts, I watched them. It's like, hey, you know, I'm turning around. You know, I'm doing a 180. I'm like, hey, you know, hang on. These movies kind of slap. All right. And I remember it was like 2 years ago. I think I came to you and our friend group, and I was like, guys, Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is a masterpiece. And you guys thought you guys thought I was mentally ill. You guys thought I was insane.
I think I still think you're mentally ill.
That's okay. I think I'm mentally ill too. That's perfectly okay. But after watching 1 through Resurrection, seeing the varying quality of all of these, it made me appreciate Rob Zombie so much more.
I will say that did happen for me as well, just because like 4 through 6 are such a boring like slog. Like,
yeah.
Especially 5 and 6, it's like it's just the same movie over and over again. Like, there's not any new ideas, really, other than bad ones, like the cult stuff.
Yeah. It's more just new ideas to fix bad ideas that then result in more bad ideas.
Right, exactly. It's like a horrible snowball effect.
But, I mean, and then I realized on this watch, I realized, especially in Halloween 2, I wasn't watching a Halloween movie anymore. I was watching a Rob Zombie movie. I think that's why they didn't do that well from, like, audiences. And I'll go into, because Rob Zombie even, like, said, like, why. Like, okay, just picture this. You know my mother. She loves Halloween, right? That's why we're here today. Because she conceived me, she exposed me to Halloween at an age I shouldn't probably have been exposed to it at. And now imagine her going to see, like, the Rob Zombie one. And within the first 2 minutes, someone's telling someone that their mom needs to get the cum pumped out of her stomach. You know?
Yeah.
It's very, like, abrasive.
Yeah.
So, like, I think audiences that don't know anything about Rob Zombie we're just seeing it for Halloween and we're like, what is going on?
Yeah.
Why are we watching like trailer trash right now? So that's kind of my theory with at least the first one, why it's really not liked by just general audiences. So before we get into our ideas, let's just talk. We're going to go about one first, then we're going to move into two. Where one, the key difference plot-wise from the original is that it gives Michael a backstory. Where we see Michael as a young boy, we see him get sent to the institution, we see him interacting with Loomis, and then we see his eventual escape. And then it is essentially the Halloween we know for the last 40 minutes or so. And that's kind of basically the plot. A lot of the new stuff is definitely in the first half, and which I think is executed very well.
Yeah.
And I'll kind of get into why I think I appreciate that so much more. But overall, I really like Halloween. I think it's actually a really good remake. What are your just base thoughts on this first one?
I think that I liked this more than the first time I watched it. I will say that.
Okay.
The first time I watched it was forever ago. I don't even remember when.
It's probably around the same age I was.
Yeah, honestly, yeah. I probably watched it because you suggested it to me, I would guess. Like most things. So yeah, I think I watched it way back when I had to be after just getting out of high school. And basically it was like I had just sworn off the Rob Zombie movies just because I heard that they were bad and nobody liked them. So I was like, okay, I'm not even going to waste my time. And back then, I don't think I was as much of a fan as the 1978 one as I am now, or the Halloween franchise in general. And I watched it, and then, I had that similar thing where I reacted to it in a very negative way, where I saw, like, that kitchen scene at the beginning when, like, the dad is like, I'm going to skull fuck the shit out of you, woman.
Yeah.
And I was like, what am I watching? And then they're talking, that kid in the bathroom is like bullying Michael, and he's like, oh my god, I heard your mom had to get her stomach pumped so she had so much cum in it. And I was like, oh god, what the hell is this?
It's pretty gross.
It is, yeah. But I ended up liking even that first whole Michael origin stuff, despite all that. But then you get to the halfway point of the movie, or it's like a little less than the halfway point, I'm pretty sure. And then that's when it becomes just like an expedited remake of John Carpenter's 1978 film, like basically shot for shot, almost shot for shot. At least the same kind of ideas are expressed.
Right.
But I just felt like that was so sacrilegious, because I feel like this 1978 film is like all about taking its time, building tension, like... and this movie loses a lot of that, and I still think that to a certain extent after watching it for the second time. But I like it more now because I think I really appreciate what he's doing, especially within the realm of the Halloween franchise.
You're doing something new.
Yeah, there's a lot of new ideas here. I still like the Michael origin stuff, even though I think that this movie accomplishes in 40 minutes what the original does in 5, and it still makes Michael like just as scary.
Right.
In my opinion. But I can't complain because all the Michael origin stuff was really well done, and it humanized him in an interesting way, and then it completely recontextualizes the second half of the movie, which is just the remake of the first 1978 one. And it really makes the whole movie more from Michael's perspective, and I don't think I realized that the first time I watched it, how like Michael-sided it is. Just and some of my other not really brief thoughts on some of the other aspects of the movie. I still do not like Laurie Strode in this movie.
Oh my god, really?
At all.
I really like this Laurie. You know what? Carolina watched this one. She liked this Laurie better.
Really? Oh no.
She said this Laurie is a lot more realistic.
But the second one, I can see what she means by that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that with the first one. I think my main problem with it is that the first one is obviously Michael Myers is not the main character. Laurie
it's
is.
Laurie. Yeah, it's very
It's-
character driven.
Right. It's about her. It's about her reaction to Michael Myers and what he's doing, and also Loomis plays a pretty big part in that as well. This one is because it starts with that 40 minutes of Michael's origin, and then that emotion and all that setup carries over into that remake portion of the movie. So even though it's like shot for shot a remake of the 1978 one, it still feels like it's from Michael's perspective just because we've had that prequel setup. So now like Michael's the character that we end up caring about.
Yeah.
And like I just feel like it is operating on a lot of people's preconceptions about who Laurie is. Like,
Right.
if you didn't know who Laurie is going into this movie, if you hadn't watched the 1978 one, like, I don't really know you'd have any reason to like her, really. And I think the second movie needs you to like her. But the Rob Zombie's first film doesn't do anything to do that.
You're saying
I think,
because it focuses so much on Michael, it doesn't give us time to actually connect with Laurie.
yeah, in the first one, yeah. And then in the second one, I feel like you need to have cared about Laurie from the first one in order to care about what she's going through in that one. And
Right.
like, I feel like it's such a weird, like, tonal shift. I almost wish they were both just completely focused on Michael. You know, it's just personal preference. I think it is,
Yeah.
really.
'Cause
They're just different.
I really enjoy this Laurie mostly because I mean, you know, I'm a big fan of Rob Zombie. I really think Rob Zombie can write believable characters well. And
Yeah.
I think he really depicts Laurie and even like Danielle Harris's character Annie, like how high school girls act. And that's what I really like about that Laurie.
Yeah.
Where she does really just seem like innocent cannon fodder. And I mean, we always say why I think Laurie is so good in the original is because she is very kind. She's very like well-mannered. She's like would be in the yearbook as like most likely to succeed.
Yeah.
And I think Rob Zombie, he still makes her that still kind of like, I wouldn't say angelic, but very innocent, but still a little, I guess, modern, you know?
Yeah.
I just really like this Laurie, and maybe that's why I like the second one so much.
Yeah. See, I don't know. I don't think you get any of the, because like when you watch the first 1978 one, you're like, okay, Laurie's a good student. She doesn't party.
No.
She doesn't really focus on guys.
Doesn't want to kiss boys.
Yeah, you get all of that in that movie. And in this one you don't really get that impression at all. And the second movie like acts like you've got that impression of her. When the first one does not set that up. Do you know what I'm saying? Like
I understand. Yeah.
In the first one, I just don't like it because, for one, I don't like her performance. Scout Taylor, I think, what is her name?
I don't know,
Scout.
but I like her. I'm gonna disagree with you.
No, but I don't know. I've always found her like she's like trying too hard or something. And then I think it's mostly just I don't like the way her character is written. Like to me, that like in the original film, like it was nice to have her friends be like the crazy, like zany, like sexy ones who are always out like chasing boys, and then they have Laurie who was like a contrast to them. And then in Rob Zombie's remake, I feel like there's almost no difference between the three of them personality-wise, between Linda, Annie, and Laurie.
Well, Laurie wasn't all that into boys either, because the reason why she was watching the other kid is because Annie wanted to go have sex with her boyfriend, and they were trying to hook her up.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I was just saying, like, Rob Zombie keeps her innocent, but I guess more modern, right?
Yeah, like she's still interested in sex and all that. Yeah.
Yeah, like she's a good girl, but she still says like fuck every other sentence.
Mm-hmm.
Like any high school girl does now.
Right. Yeah, I could see it from that perspective, I guess. I don't know. I think it's just personal preference.
Oh,
like,
yeah, entirely. I think your opinion on both of these movies are going to be entirely up to personal preference.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Because after watching them, I like them, but I can also see why people hate these movies so much. Because they're so sacrilegious to the Halloween franchise. Like, they do so many things that you're not supposed to do.
Yes.
I think we'll focus on one.
And again, I think it's because it's a Rob Zombie movie first.
Yeah.
Before a Halloween movie.
But yeah, which I actually like that they do that. I just want to say that, get that out there, because you needed to do something different. I think at this point in the franchise, as we described last time, we just got out of Resurrection, which is like the low point of the entire franchise. Jamie Lloyd and that whole cult saga, which I think pretty much everybody hates. So it's like you need to try something different. Well, and I applaud them for doing that.
That's something I wanted to talk about, because in these last couple episodes, we've been complaining, right? We've been complaining about all this stuff, all these points, right? Rob Zombie answered a lot of them.
Oh, yeah.
Where I think Rob Zombie understands Michael, unlike the directors and writers of all these other movies.
I think, I do agree with that. I think one thing that is great about this movie that I noticed and I realized more, this is the best The Mask has ever looked since the original film.
Yes.
100%.
100%. Easy.
Yeah.
And the look and the way Michael carries himself, even though he's a fucking gargantuan.
Yeah.
But I like how brutal Michael is now.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he still is menacing. Like, he is very, I think, tactful with his kills. And he still has that kind of curiosity element we see in the original.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I know we complained in 4, 5, and 6, like, why is Loomis insane? You know? Like it's fine in the first film. Oh, he's a psychiatrist for 20 years. Fine. Boom.
Yeah.
That's okay. But like, why is he so emotionally attached? Where I feel like we actually get that now. And we definitely see more. I think Loomis is more dealing with himself as well. Like, he sees Michael as like a failure to himself.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was unable to help him.
Mm-hmm.
Now it's like, it's my duty to stop him.
Right.
And that is a lot, I think, more digestible, or I guess more satisfying than he's evil. There's not a boy behind those eyes, waving his revolver everywhere.
No, I agree with you on that point. I prefer this Loomis performance-wise and character-wise to the original Donald Pleasance Loomis.
Wow.
It's not even a contest. Like, I feel bad for saying that because I feel like that's so sacrilegious, but like, I don't know, something about him, how level-headed he is, and like he just exudes intelligence more than Donald Pleasance did for some reason. I don't know.
He's actually a good psychiatrist.
Yeah, I got that impression, honestly, no.
And it's interesting because we see kind of his turning point as well. As we've been saying, the main focus of these movies is Michael. And you know me, I'm into the macabre. I like my serial killers. I'm into that whole true crime area. And I think like the first 40 minutes of this movie is Rob Zombie knows his shit. It is like a true depiction of like escalation of a killer. And I'm going to kind of get into that. Where one thing that's common in serial killers is called the serial killer soup, right? It's everything that happens once they pop out of the womb that makes them the way they are. And it's typically a combination between nature and nurture. So we see right away that Michael, in like the first scene, kills his pet rat. You know? So inherently we're like, okay, little bit of a psychopath. Already doesn't understand right from wrong, doesn't see like consequences to his actions, stuff like that. We have the abusive father who says gross things about his own daughter, most likely abuses Michael, definitely abuses his wife, along just unstable home life in general. Like, even his sister is mean to him. She won't even take him trick-or-treating, and we see even at school he gets bullied because his mom's a stripper and everyone makes fun of him. So it's clear like there's no control. The only good in his life comes from his mother and from Angel the baby. So then we see Michael at school. He gets in trouble because he gets in a fight with these kids that were bullying him. And then Michael sneaks out and tracks down that kid and fucking kills him. And like tortures him. Like it's not even like and you see the click. That's what I like so much, is you see the click where he hits the kid with the branch. The kid is clearly down, right? He is out. He's done. But like Michael stops and he's like, "Hang on. I have control right now." This is something he has probably never felt in his life. This is the moment where he says, "Oh, this feels good. I don't know what this feels like, but I know I like it." And that's when he continues with the beating, eventually to the kid's death, right? So basically what that teaches Michael is that, oh, I can get control through violence, right? Nothing else works, but violence does. That's where I think the seed is planted, and that's where the escalation happens of killing his family. You know? Because it's clear that he wasn't planning that at the beginning of the night. He wanted to go trick-or-treating. No. Mom had to go out to work. Sister's like, "No, I want to stay here and fuck my boyfriend. You don't get to go trick-or-treating." And it's like almost in that moment when he's like eating candy corn, he's like, "Huh, you know, I think I have a solution to my problem. Let me just kill them all." You know? Because to him, that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
It worked with the bully. Why wouldn't it work on his father and sister? So essentially, yeah, he kills his family very brutally.
Yeah.
With taping the father to a chair and cutting his throat, and then bashing the boyfriend's skull in. And he even does the weird pervy Michael thing where he like pretends to be someone else to his sister.
Yeah.
You know? And then kills her. And then, you know, the mom comes home and he's outside with baby Angel. And he doesn't kill the kid because that kid is like comfort to him. Like that's his idea of happiness. And we find out right away he doesn't even think what he did is wrong. Like that's psychopathic behavior. And then when we get to the institution, eventually, you know, he's just like, "I want to go home. I don't understand why I'm here," because in his mind, he didn't do anything wrong. And he also repressed that because he doesn't remember. And that's very common with serial killers. Like Jeffrey Dahmer says he doesn't remember anything about the kills. Stuff like that. So like his brain is like basically putting up a shield to protect himself. And then he slowly, as time goes on, he starts quieting down. He starts retreating behind these masks. And again, that's like the only comfort he can find because his mother and sister have been stripped away from him. You know, there's nothing left for him. He is locked up. Violence cannot solve anything, which we've seen he tried because he does kill another nurse when she's left alone.
Yeah.
So it's him basically regressing to the point where he says the only solution to any of my problems is violence, right? So he gives up. He's basically a kid who doesn't know right from wrong in a man's body. And the only comfort he knows is his mother and his sister. And what really snaps is when his mother kills herself after he killed that nurse because she couldn't live with that. So now he has nothing. And he knows his sister's out there, and basically that is his only chance at happiness. But the problem is he doesn't know how to achieve that, except not through violence, and that is where Michael happens in these movies. And I think that is incredible, and I think they finally solved the stupid, oh, it's your sister, he has to kill his sister thing. Because Michael doesn't want to kill her. He just wants to be together.
Right, yeah.
So that is where I think the writing, Rob Zombie, is great. And I think that seeing all of that and understanding like the escalation of a killer and seeing how detailed it all is, I think is absolutely incredible. And that idea of that his sister is really the only solace he can get in life. He doesn't care about anything else. You know?
Yeah.
I think that is really powerful stuff, and we understand why Michael is doing what he's doing, and it's still fucking terrifying.
Mm-hmm.
So that is my spiel on why I love these movies so much, and I think why Michael is so interesting.
Okay. I mean, I agree with all of that. So
Yeah.
I'm not gonna dog on you too much.
Thank you. Thank you.
I think I think the only thing I have to say about that is I feel like it is operating off of a lot of his whole origin is kind of operating out of a lot of stereotypes is what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Where like it just feels like a lot of the steps that he's taken to explain Michael's origin is like really obvious.
Mm-hmm.
I guess he was trying to make it really realistic.
Yes.
Or whatever, but it's like at the end of the day, do we really need to know that Michael like got like called like ugly by a bunch of kids at school and that's why he went silent and killed people? Do you know what I mean? Like I feel like we get what we needed from the original film and he was still like just as scary. Now I will say this is a much better solution to the sibling problem than any of the other movies came up with.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Him wanting to just be with her instead of trying to kill her. Well, I guess that's the whole point of the movie is that you don't really know if he wants to kill Lori or just be with her and like be her friend.
Definitely in the first one.
Yeah, definitely in the first one. Yeah. Which I actually think is really interesting. And I like that aspect of it. Yeah, and I think that his whole origin is well done from a writing and directing perspective. I just don't know if we really needed to see it.
Okay.
I think the thing that would have maybe pushed it over the edge for me is if it was a whole movie about Michael's origin.
About that.
Yeah, because I feel like I like that first 40 minutes where it is that. And then it becomes kind of boring for me after that because it just feels like a carbon copy of the original right after that. But you do have the added context. The whole time I was thinking like, what if it wasn't like a reboot? What if he was trying to make like a prequel to the original?
Yeah.
Because I felt like all those scenes with Loomis and Michael in the asylum, like when he's talking to him throughout his life, all that stuff was like really interesting to me. And I thought you could have expanded that and like had like a really interesting, like compact little movie without like retreading like new ground. And you're also exploring like a new idea. It's like, well, let's try to explain Michael Myers' origin. Let's go really in depth with it. Let's show like him and Loomis's relationship. And like I was thinking during that too, you could like have an arc for Loomis where at first he's like bright-eyed and bushy-tailed and young, where he's like, oh, I can fix this kid, like no problem. Like no one is beyond fixing, like no matter what they've done in life. Like, and then at the end of the movie is him realizing this kid's a fucking psychopath and he's gonna kill lots more people. He's evil. Like they could have done something like that.
I mean, Loomis does kind of get that way, especially like when Michael escapes, like, and he's like yelling at the, I guess, warden or director of that facility, and he's like, "All you had to do was keep the monkey in the cage until it dies of old age."
Oh yeah.
So like he like fully gave up on treating Michael.
Yeah. No, I think that's what he was trying to do with it. I definitely do.
Yeah.
I just feel like I'm just saying that. I this is my personal preference. I love Better Call Saul. I love Twin Peaks: The Return. So I love when things are expanded and they have all of this room to breathe.
Yeah.
So I was just thinking like, you can make a really damn good movie with this execution if it was just spread out and you saw like the first act was like Michael like out of the asylum like when he was a kid or something like that. And then he gets into the asylum, second act, Loomis interaction, third act, something bad happens, and then Loomis thinks he's evil. Like having like that spread out, I really think would have made that more interesting, even though it already was interesting.
You want like a Better Call Loomis that's basically Michael Myers' Joker.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
That's fine. I'd watch that.
I know, I would too, even with Rob Zombie doing it, because I genuinely like what he's doing here. I think it's interesting, and I think it solves a problem with the franchise, with the whole sibling thing. Because in the movies before this, it's just not scary. Like him going after his sibling to like fulfill some stupid rune. Yeah, it's not stupid. Scary. It makes Michael seem like he's just like a hero or something. I don't know. And so this makes it brings that creepiness back to Michael Myers that he hadn't had since the original, really. And
I think what makes him extra scary is that it's very clear he still basically has the mental age of a 10-year-old. Where with his kills, he has fun. You know? Mm-hmm. He has a good time. Mm-hmm. Especially the Annie scene in the first movie when he hangs like the boyfriend on like a noose and has like a pumpkin on his head.
Yeah.
And he sets a trap for Laurie. Mm-hmm. And there's that is an incredible scene, and I will elaborate this when we talk about 2. But it's like Laurie, Laurie comes in, sees the hanging guy, sees Annie on the floor, she's all cut up, like half stripped, and Annie is basically so weak because she was strangled that all she can say is like Laurie, and she's trying to tell him like Laurie, he's still in the house, and she's freaking out. She's like, oh my god, I'm gonna call 911. And then we get that perfect shot where like the door slowly closes and you see Michael's face like in the shadows.
Oh yeah,
and it's so cool. Awesome. Like Rob Zombie's able to manage him being a wrestler and also being very like I think phantasmal as he is in kind of the first movie.
Yeah,
because I think what makes Michael so different than the other slashers, especially in the original, is that Michael feels more like a force of nature.
Yeah,
like he feels more like a vibe. You know, like he just his presence radiates like an aura, and I think that hasn't been captured until this one again.
Yeah,
which I think goes into obviously, I think I've said this countless times on this podcast, but I believe that people who understand and love horror movies will make a good horror movie, and we know Rob Zombie is a little freak. And he loves his horror movies. So he's going to make a good movie. And I think that is on all of his movies. Mm-hmm. It's true.
Yeah.
And I guess we should talk, I think, kind of his direction. Because I think, like you haven't seen as many.
No.
You've seen The Munsters, which is widely different from his normal work.
Yes.
And
yes.
I remember we watched 31 together, which was his kind of take on, I guess, Battle Royale kind of thing, or like a Hunger Games.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I guess it is that. I didn't really think about it that way, but it is.
Which, yeah, it is fun. But his work is very dirty. It's very filthy. Words that are said that are just vile, you know. And it's very unrelenting, and that is due to the man just loves Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I mean, that's when he made House of a Thousand Corpses, he's basically like, yeah, I want to make my own Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
That's what I've heard, that movie is just basically his version of that Texas Chainsaw movie.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
So, yeah, he just loves horror, and he loves how unrelenting. And I think one thing audiences don't like is how, like, punishing his work is. Like, the kills are just mean, you know? And they're violent. Like, they're not fun. You know, and like, others are like, oh, whoa, Michael threw that guy in an electric thing, and he electrocuted and blew up. That's funny. Where this Michael... Like I think like the Ken Foree kill is great in this one, where like he pulls a knife on Michael and Michael just grabs his hand and slams it against the wall.
Oh yeah.
Until essentially breaks and he drops the knife. And it's just so violent and real. Like the violence is real. I think that's what Rob Zombie's really good at. Mm-hmm. And that is definitely, I think for normal audiences, not very nice to see.
No, yeah. Yeah, I don't mind how brutal it is. Like
Yeah.
a lot of people seem to have a problem with that for some reason. Because like I think that's what differentiates it so much from the original is like the original like it's horror, its terror is built on suspense
Right.
and build up and like you setting up things. You constantly know where Michael is. That's what makes it scary because you don't know when he's gonna come out, like when this person's in danger. This is more like, which is my complaint, but also kind of a plus of the movie is it kind of ditches that suspense filmmaking for one because it has to get through the whole first movie's plot in like half the time, but it replaces that with brutality and like just absolute like just gore. Like Michael does not let up with anyone in this movie. Like he will like, what's scary about this Michael is like he will like bash your head into a wall until there's like nothing left.
Yeah.
Like, and I feel like that adds like a different kind of scare factor to it than the original had, which I think makes it unique. And it's like a new idea. So that's kind of why I like it.
Yeah, that's very similar to like a lot of Rob Zombie movies. The kills are always very either sudden or just like, I guess how you would kill a person if you were in a situation, you know?
Yeah.
Like we see Michael kill a lot of people with his bare hands.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And Rob Zombie, it's just abrasive. But I will say, both these movies look incredible because they're shot on film.
Yeah, I was gonna say that too. It's the best looking Halloween movie since the original as well.
Oh, yeah.
By far, like not even a contest. Yeah.
Especially 2.
Oh
2,
God, yeah.
2 looks amazing. And again, I always say this. I always judge a Halloween movie on does it feel like Halloween. And Rob Zombie did it. Good job.
Even the original Halloween, it you can see palm trees in some shots.
Oh yeah, when it's supposed to be Illinois.
Right. Yeah.
And then they have outside lockers. Like, what are you gonna do in December, bud? Like, yeah. No, but I mean, there's Halloween. Like that was my big complaint with Kills, where it just was not Halloween at all. And again, and because it was a continuation off of the 2018 one, but even Halloween 2, the original, like Halloween 1, okay, yeah, feels like Halloween, awesome, but Halloween 2 is very sleepy. It's very like, you know, it's November now. It's after midnight.
Yeah.
You know, it's like fall is over. It's very quiet and quaint, and that's still, it feels like, and especially with Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 as well, it feels like, you know, when it's Halloween night, you're done trick-or-treating, it's like a weekend, you're up late, you're on like a sugar high, but you're kind of calming down. You know, everyone's gone, everyone's gone home, you're like half in your costume. That's what it feels like. And that's an amazing feeling.
I got that feeling even from those first 40 minutes with young Michael. Like, just him sitting out on that stoop, like waiting
on the porch
for Judith to come down. Like, it felt like Halloween to me. It really did.
Well, I did watch the alternative endings and deleted scenes from this one.
Okay, I did not see those.
I want to fill you in on, well, okay, there was a bunch of scenes, and I understand why they took them out, because they were fucking dumb. Where it was basically this whole subplot where the board, it was like when Michael's older, the board was like, oh, we have to, like, Michael's up for parole or something, I don't know, but it was basically them saying he's mentally sane enough to go to a normal prison.
What?
And one guy was like, Loomis was not there for some reason.
Oh God.
And he's like, well, you know, I think he's perfectly safe. We haven't had an incident, so yeah, let's send him to minimum security. And then like the other guy was like, are you kidding me? This man's a monster. He'd escape, you know? And it's just so bizarre because Loomis wasn't there. So you think that would be like, oh, Loomis is like, I telling you right now, doctor, that this man is gonna escape and kill all these people. And then, so I think maybe that was Michael's possible escape.
Weird.
Which was maybe kind of like a throw at like the rehabilitation of like prison systems and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, it sounds like it.
But yeah, it's very clear why they weren't in the movie. Also, almost all the other deleted scenes were just Loomis walking Michael's mom to her car. And he's just like,
What?
"Oh, lovely weather we're having here, yeah." And she's like, "Oh yeah, it's very nice. Oh, it might rain later." It's just filler.
That's hilarious. I want to see those.
There was one nice one where it was like Christmas, and Loomis and her went to like see Michael on Christmas, and she got Loomis like a gift. I was like,
That's cute.
That's nice. It's a nice scene.
I kind of wanted that to be in the movie. That would have been nice to see.
Yeah. And then the alternative ending was a bit shorter. It was basically, you know, when they think Michael's dead and they're in the car and Michael grabs Laurie through the window.
Oh, yeah.
And also, I love Loomis's reaction to that is so funny because he thinks
I was about to
everything's
say
over,
that.
and he's just like, "Oh shit, what the fuck?" Like, and he's just like, it scares him.
Yeah. No, I wrote down exactly what he said because it made me laugh so hard.
Yeah, what does he say?
He's like, Jesus Christ, oh my God.
That's so awesome. That's like a genuine reaction if you saw that.
Oh no. I know, it was so fucking funny.
Yeah, but the alternative ending was after he pulls her out, basically there were already cops there and they just like surround Michael, but he like has Laurie like with the knife, and then Loomis is like, "No, I can talk to him." They're like, "Michael, don't hurt her. She's your sister," blah blah, and he like lets her go, and the second she runs to Loomis, the cops just all open fire and gun him down.
Oh, on Michael?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So that was the alternative ending, which I like. I think the original ending better.
Yeah, I do too.
It's a lot more personal. Mm-hmm. And I love just the way it's edited, where she just screams and blasts him in the face, and it just goes into like it's just like still frame and it's over. Mm-hmm. It's awesome.
It was like really realistic to me because I feel like Laurie, she's never encountered that kind of violence.
No,
and even shooting someone in the face as evil as Michael. That has to
it's
be
so
like
fucked up.
Yeah, you have to be like, oh my God, like I would scream if that happened to me too.
Especially you see the blood, like all his brain fly at her.
Yeah,
and she's like still screaming after it happens. That's like the most horrifying part.
Right? Yeah, like she was just so horrified by what she just had to do. Like, yeah, I did like that.
And again, it follows at least Halloween. You know, they nail the endings. We will give them credit.
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Now, it's the time I've been waiting for. You fool.
I'm a fool. Which, by the way, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to be an asshole and like be like, oh, you're an idiot.
It's okay.
I don't
respect
think that.
it. I respect it.
I understand why you like them so much. I just have to get my honest thoughts out there. That's all.
That's okay. I want you to.
Okay, cool.
I just, you know what? It's like, you know when you have an opinion that no one else agrees with, but then you finally meet that person that agrees, and you're like, oh shit. I'm waiting for that person to come into my life. So I'm gonna plead my case here throughout us talking about this and why I love Halloween 2. I think it is a masterpiece. And it is breaching my favorite horror movies. Like,
wow.
Like I will like I cried on this rewatch watching this.
Damn.
I will say that I'm very emotionally invested. I absolutely love this movie. But let's get the base plot out of the way.
Yeah.
This is 2 years after the events of Rob Zombie's first one. Laurie's not doing so hot. No. And we'll get into that. Meanwhile, the sheriff's department was never able to produce a body for some reason. And we don't know if Michael's alive or dead. But then we reveal Michael's basically living a hobo life, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And basically he starts seeing his mom, and she's like, hey, it's time to come home, Michael. And that's essentially the bare bones plot, but this one focuses a lot more on Laurie. which I think is some of the best parts of this movie. So you know how I feel, and I'll elaborate on how I feel. I just want to know, how do you feel about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2?
You know, everybody always says that Halloween 3 is the most underrated Halloween movie, right?
Right.
Well, they're wrong, because this is 100% the most underrated
Hell
Halloween
yeah.
movie.
Hell yeah. Let's go. Let's fucking go.
Because I see so many Halloween fans putting this as the worst one.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, why? Like, Resurrection is so much worse than this.
Yeah.
Like, Halloween 5 and 6 are so much worse than this,
5
too.
was almost unwatchable. And I've seen that movie plenty
yeah.
of times. And I can say that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, so, like, and it's like, at least this one has some really interesting themes. And, like, it tries a lot of new and different things with the franchise.
This movie has balls.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of things that no other sane person who's doing a Halloween movie would even try to do.
Yeah.
And I really commend it for that. Like, they were really ambitious with this, and they really put it out there. I am so surprised that, well, I think we mentioned this last time, but these two Halloween movies, the producer for the first, like, 30 years of Halloween sequels,
Mustafa Akkad,
died, unfortunately. And I found out he died in a terrorist attack, which is actually really sad. Yeah, he got, like, it was a bomb or something.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I know. So that is terrible. But after that, his son, Malik Akkad, took over. And allegedly, from what I've heard from all these filmmakers, even Rob Zombie himself, he's been like, just do whatever you want. Like, you can make a Halloween movie. I don't care, as long as it's not complete shit. Make it.
It's weird. It's almost like if we just let the creatives do what they want, like, a good product will come out, huh? That's weird.
It's kind of weird, isn't it?
Yeah, weird. It's almost like every franchise should do this, huh? Yeah. Huh. I don't. Okay. Weird. Huh. All right. Continue.
I read like an interview that I thought was like so cool, and it makes a lot of sense why this movie is the way it is. The first Rob Zombie Halloween actually made a lot of money, and it kind of revitalized the franchise again for like the fucking 4th time. Obviously, Malik went back to Rob Zombie, and he's like, "Hey, can you make a second one for us?" But then Rob was like, "No, like, not doing it." Like, because I guess he said making the first one was so stressful.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
It's probably the like most watched movie of his by far, just because it's such a huge franchise.
And there's so much pressure on you to make, especially a remake.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. But yeah, when you're following up someone like John Carpenter, like, I wouldn't want to do it. Like, he was more of a brave soul than I would ever be.
Oh, yeah.
But like, so then Malik came back to him after Rob said no, and he's like, "Can you please do this for us? We will literally let you do whatever you want."
Oh, okay. That makes a lot of sense now.
And then Rob Zombie was like, "Okay, if you're really gonna let me do that, I'll just write what I think should happen next." And it breaks so many rules of the Halloween franchise, but I think in really cool ways.
Now let's go into, I think, the biggest difference, and that's Laurie's character. Now, Laurie is not doing hot. And it is in a very realistic, hard to watch way.
Oh my god, yeah.
What I love so much about Halloween 2 and why it is so realistic, where in a normal movie she'd be dealing with the trauma and then she gets over it, right?
Mm-hmm.
No. Laurie gets significantly worse and lashes out at everybody.
Yeah.
Everyone's life is miserable because of her. And what I think is so great about it is that Rob Zombie just focuses on the lives of everybody. Annie, the sheriff, even the parents of the victims. And he really gives you a personal look at what it's like to go through this.
Mm-hmm.
And he said that's why I think this movie is shit on so much, is because the theatrical cut, they basically made Laurie, like he described it as, she was hanging on. Like, she figured it out, you know? And you watch the unrated cut and you're like, no, man. She
Yeah.
didn't. And the reason was because I guess in the test screenings, audiences did not respond well to a realistic depiction of trauma.
Wow.
So they had to cut it down.
Wow.
That's why the cuts are so different. That's why I told you, I'm like, you need to watch the unrated one.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think I had such a bad impression of it initially when I watched it. I think
You
it was
probably
mostly
saw the
because
theatrical.
Yeah, because I looked up like how different it was, and oh my god, like I heard that they cut out like the whole subplot with where Lori and Annie like hate each other basically.
Yeah, there's like
Which is
a ton
like-
of resentment between them.
Yeah, and it's like, why would you cut that out? Like, that's the whole like pull of the movie. That's like the character-driven part of the movie. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's so bizarre. I couldn't believe it. Honestly,
Yeah.
It's a completely different movie, director's cut.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's incredibly tough to watch because you understand what Lori's going through, and you hate to see her be so self-destructive, right? Like, she's lashing out at Annie. She's lashing out at pretty much everyone. She's drinking, doing drugs. She has no closure, and it's clear in therapy, like, it's just not working, you know? Mm-hmm. Like, she has absolutely no hope. She doesn't believe she's ever going to recover, and she thinks the rest of her life is going to be shit. Mm-hmm. And that's incredible. That's like a real hard pill to swallow. And it doesn't help that throughout the movie, she just gets significantly worse.
Yeah.
And that's the difference. And that's why I think Rob Zombie kind of broke the horror sequel rule, where, you know, every horror sequel is the same. Where, okay, our final girl, yeah, she's a little nervous. She's got a little bit of anxiety after getting almost murdered. But no, now the killer's back and she's ready, you know? She's ready. She's going to kill him. She knows what to do now. You know?
Right.
And that's how they go. Where this one, like, this Lori is probably, like, passed out in her bathroom pissing herself every night. You know? like she's not there. And, I mean, when we see even Annie, there's a great fight between them where Lori, again, like, Annie makes a comment because she was drinking, and Lori is just like, oh, you know, you always criticize everything I do. And Annie's like, well, I was fucking attacked too, you know? She was laying on the floor with her fucking neck collapsed and cuts all over. And same with the father, too. Mm-hmm. Like, we see that. Like, we see him being very overprotective on, like, Halloween night. There's just so much good character stuff there.
Yeah, I agree. It's bordering on, like, indie movie quality character stuff.
It's incredible stuff. Like, it's just so insane that this is a Halloween movie, and it's all done so well. On the other side, we have Michael, too, right? And I think, again, breaking sequel rules, Michael is an incredibly realistic depiction of I think, what a escaped serial killer would kind of turn out to be. Just wandering through the woods and fields like a hobo, eating like raw squirrels. You know?
Yeah.
And it's awesome. Mm-hmm. I do like that he doesn't really have a mask.
I know people say that's like so bad or like sacrilegious. Like, oh, by far the worst mask is Halloween 2's Rob Zombie mask. And I'm like, did you see fucking H20?
Yeah. And you see his eyeballs popping out?
Yeah. Which I think the thing that about this that I'm fine with is that because they humanized Michael in the first one by showing his origin, I actually don't really mind that they show like half of his face basically in this one.
Yeah, I mean they just show him.
Yeah, literally. They show
first
they show most of his face.
40 minutes is just him being a hobo.
Yeah.
And well, I think it's also important is that meanwhile in the town, like let's talk about Loomis here real quick. Loomis is now like a best-selling author. He's basically exploiting the tragedy, you know, making his money off of Michael, who's become this icon. But I think what's so great is that Rob Zombie strips like the iconography from Michael, right? and says, let's look at this guy as a man. Let's not look at him as Michael Myers. Let's just like really look at what he's doing through, like, mask off, basically.
Yeah.
Both physically and metaphorically, you know, that's what he's doing. And Loomis is kind of an asshole in this movie. Like, you can see he's completely blinded by greed.
Yeah.
He's turning the tragedy into profits and kind of boosting his own ego. Thinking he's so great. And that kind of comes to bite him in the ass. I mean, he gets Weird Al'd.
Yeah, I was so surprised to see Weird Al and Chris Hardwick.
Yeah.
Like, what the fuck are they doing here?
Bizarre stuff. Yeah, and there's a great scene where he's doing the book signing, and the dad gives him the picture of, what was her name, Linda, from the first movie.
Yeah.
And he's like, don't you recognize her? And he's like, oh, no, she's a beautiful woman. He's like, yeah, she was a beautiful woman. That's my daughter, bro. And Loomis is like, oh, shit. And then he, like, pulls a gun on him. And I'm like, that's, like, realistic. Like, that happens. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, sure.
Like, Alex Jones is doing that currently, right now.
Yeah, literally.
You know?
Yeah. Though I like Loomis a lot in this one, too. I think my big complaint with Loomis that I think is different from everything else in the movie, because everything else in the movie treads new ground, like character-wise.
Well, Loomis,
do you know what I
doesn't.
mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like Loomis has like almost the exact same arc as he did in the first one, but like more exaggerated, or like more to a point. Because like, yeah, in that first one, you show him he was with Michael, then he left him, and that's when everything went to shit. So now he feels like he has to go back and do it himself because of this responsibility he feels that he has to take care of Michael, and that he was with him for so long. Like, of course I have to be there. And then I feel like this does the same thing, but makes Loomis more unlikable. Well, which I think I like better.
Yeah. We're gonna get into some nuance here. All right.
Oh, okay.
Because I definitely, I think, notice this a bit more on this rewatch. Is that, and again, it's very cynical. This movie, I think, is very cynical. And going on Loomis's side, right? Like, Loomis is at his lowest point before the climax of the movie, before he finally goes and confronts Michael. He has basically, everywhere he goes, he's publicly shamed. And I think this is more, I guess I should say, a way to interpret it, is that I don't think Loomis goes to stop Michael for purely altruistic reasons. I think that he's at his lowest point. He realized, like, fuck, I screwed this up. I fucked with all these people's lives. Not from a sympathetic standpoint, more from a they hate me now standpoint. What can I do to fix this? You know, how can I be that hero again? And then it's like, perfect opportunity. I think you could read both ways.
I would agree with the interpretation that he's just doing it for his own image. If he didn't, like, basically sacrifice himself at the end. Because he does. He literally is like, take me instead. Like, you can kill me. Like, but please, like, let Lori go. Like, I think if he did something more selfish, like he was just there to, like, shoot Michael in the face or something like that.
He just pulls up with, like, a Glock.
Yeah,
blind fires into that house.
Yeah, exactly.
Loomis is here to save the day. Meanwhile, Lori just like 10 bullet holes in her. He's signing books out to the cops.
Oh my god, can I talk about something in the first film? I know we're talking about the second one, but
go for it.
We mentioned Loomis's gun.
Yeah.
One of my least favorite scene by far in that movie is that scene where Loomis goes to buy the gun in the gun shop.
Buy a gun, yeah.
I was like, why do we need to see this? It's like Rob Zombie like saw the original film and he's like, what? Where did he get that gun from? What the hell? That's not going to happen in my movie. I'm going to explain that.
Yeah.
And it was like almost like a comedic scene too.
Yeah. There's a lot of kind of comedic scenes.
Yeah, that was another complaint of these movies in general, is that like I felt like the first movie, the kitchen scene, when the dude is like I'm gonna skull fuck the shit out of you, woman. And then he's like thinking incestuous thoughts about like his own stepdaughter. And like, I was like, in a regular Rob Zombie movie, I would be laughing my head off at this stuff, right? But I know that this movie wants me to be like, oh, this is disturbing. What the hell? Like, this is how it fucked up Michael to create one of the most evil human beings ever. So there's like a really weird like tonal inconsistency going on there that like it makes me feel like I don't know how to feel. Like, it makes me want to laugh. Like, I think anyone wants to go like, oh wow, he wants to skull fuck the shit out of his wife. Like, that's funny in like a morbid kind of way. But then you're like, but do you feel like the movie, in order for the movie to work, you have to be disturbed by that scene? Do you know what I mean?
Again, this may just be coming from I'm a zombie head. I've seen all of zombies movies, so that's kind of what it's normalized a bit for me. Where, like, because like Rob Zombie is very good, I think, at sprinkling humor in, and a lot of the humor is like very dry. Where, like, especially like the strip club scene in 2, when like the owner is like watching him as like Frankenstein on that ad, and he's got the stripper on his lap, and like the other like the bartender comes in, he's just like annoying, and the guy's like, hey, knock knock, who's there? He's like, take out the trash. He's like, what? He's like, take out the fucking trash. And the stripper's like, yeah, take out the trash. And he's like, shut the fuck up. And I don't know, it's just stuff like that is so stupid that it's funny. Like, Rob Zombie's very good, and I think is very similar to, like, I guess, like Tarantino, where, like, he can make a character that is only in it for one scene, but they're incredibly memorable. And, like, you instantly, just from one conversation, understand this entire character, which I think makes a really satisfying, like, death. I do want to talk about that strip club scene, because I think that is a perfect example of how brutal Michael is.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking about with the mirror.
Yeah. Where he is slamming her face on the mirror to the point where her face is just covered in glass shards, and it's just mush.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that one is legit. That's, to me, that's the most disturbing kill in either of these movies. I don't know why.
Yeah. And they show it.
Yeah.
They show everything.
I think it's the way she like is like screaming initially when she's getting her head smacked, but then eventually just stops.
Yeah, and he's still going.
Right, and then she's just flailing her arms. Like, she's still alive, like she can feel it, but she literally just can't scream anymore. Like, that is so, like, disturbing to me. Ugh.
Yeah, that whole scene is awesome, where it's just a slaughter.
Yeah.
and you can tell that's Michael getting his groove back. You know? He's back in Haddonfield.
Yeah.
And I do like that he does put on the mask when he does the kills. That's like his kill mode, right?
Oh, yeah.
That's his regression mode.
Mm-hmm.
You know? But let's I think get into Michael's mental state of this one.
Okay.
So Michael is still after Lori, you know. It's been 2 years, and he's seeing visions of his mother, and she's like, "Hey, Michael, it's time to bring your sister to us, you know. It's time to bring the family together again." So I guess his plan was to kill her and maybe kill himself.
That's what I surmised as well, which I like a lot.
And one thing that's cool, like, this movie is very dark, both thematically and like lighting wise. I mean, it's a beautifully shot movie, but it's incredibly dark, you know. And it's like I said, like, it's that after Halloween night kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And his mom and his future self, they're like the beacon of light in like the darkness of Haddonfield, you know. Like, she's covered in white. There's always like this angelic lighting behind her. Even little Michael is as well. And this is where I think we kind of see Michael once again regress back to a comfortable state, right? Like, he's seeing his mom just for like comfort of like, okay, yeah, something good can happen. And this, I was trying to think of examples, all right?
Yeah.
Similarities. And I realized Chris Chan. right? Look, hear me out on this. Hear me out. Okay. I'm going to compare Michael Myers to Chris Chan right now.
Oh, no.
So Chris Chan is obsessed with like those like 90s and 2000s cartoons and all that, you know, like Legos and toys and Nintendo's games, because that was the only point in his life that was good.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was when he was happy. Then getting older, you know, the dimensional merge came out, and pretty much anything bad happening in his life basically inflated his imagination of like his safe space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those are his safe space. Something bad happens. Oh, don't worry, the dimensional merge will be here so I can go fuck Mewtwo. Or whatever. Michael is going through something similar.
Oh, okay.
Where he's basically, his brain is just making a safe space in his mother and justifying that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the mother's like, oh, you know, they're stupid being alive. Come, bring her to us. We're so happy here. Michael is really, again, just like in the first film, just searching for happiness in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree.
In the end, it's all about family.
Oh,
you know?
God. It actually
Just
is
like
about
Star
family
Wars.
this time.
It's all about family.
That's the only time I ever want to hear that phrase applied unironically is to this movie.
That's how they should pitch it. Michael bashing that woman's skull into a pulp on a mirror, and then just,
Oh, God.
it's about family.
Yeah.
But I mean, really, I think the point of that is to show Michael's own trauma in a way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like what he experienced as a kid is still fucking with him. And even, I think, what he experienced growing up into what he is now. You know, Michael is someone who's never had anything good happen in their life, and he's going to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I don't think he necessarily knows what that means. He just has the idea of, oh, this is what makes people happy, is family. So I need this. So visions of my mother is going to, you know, justify taking this. I think that's really interesting and unique. I mean, while Michael is like a psychopath, it humanizes him in a way. Like, I'm not rooting for Michael. I don't feel sorry for the guy.
Oh, no, yeah.
Not at all. Like, I don't want this to come off as like, oh yeah, Michael, he's, you know, it could have been better for him. He could have worked out. But like how people watch the Joker and like rooted for him at the end.
Oh, God, yeah.
Like, yeah, go commit murder on innocent people.
Yeah.
You had it bad in life. You deserve this.
No, I was scared watching that movie in the theater because the guy that was sitting like a seat or two away from me, like right next to me, at the end of the movie when he shoots Murray in the face, he was laughing.
Oh my
I was like,
God.
I feel really scared right now. That guy's gonna pull out a gun or something.
Yeah, 32.
But anyway, I see what you're saying. It's like people need to understand that like just because you make a character more interesting doesn't mean you're like sympathizing with them. Like
You have to like them.
right. Yeah. It's
They're
like
just interesting.
right. You have to have a logical reason why this person is the way they are. Because I think everybody in life starts out as a human and then the things that happen to them change them and make them into something good or bad. Like
Nature. Mm-hmm.
right. Exactly.
Yeah. And I think that is Halloween too. Like, I think if you do not like feeling bad, don't watch this movie. You know? If you like movies where there's a happy ending and all your characters grow, don't watch this movie. And then again, that is why I think this movie is so divisive.
Yeah.
And it's especially hard to watch. I think this one's like the kills are even more brutal than the first one.
Oh yeah.
And
absolutely.
I want to talk about the biggest kill. Is Annie.
Oh man. Yeah.
R.I.P. This scene makes me cry. Like genuinely, I tear up watching this.
Yeah.
So to give context, Annie's home alone Halloween night. Michael knows that's where Lori lives, so he goes there. He kills the cop outside because her dad, Sheriff Brackett, always has someone on guard at night. And I just love Danielle Harris in this movie. I think she's incredible.
Oh my god, yeah. I wanted to mention that as well because I think her as a child actor was already great, and she's still like amazing in these movies as an adult. Like I can't believe she didn't have more of a career like outside of these movies.
And again, like that's what I'm saying. Rob Zombie's so good at like just instantly like setting up like these dynamics. Like the cop comes to be like, "Hey, your dad told me to keep watch," and she's just like, "Get the fuck out of here," you know? like the way he's talking to him, you can tell like this is a common thing.
Yeah.
And he's just like, "I'll just sit out with my shotgun." She's like, "I'm gonna kick you in the dick." Like he just says something like that, you know? And it's awesome. Yeah. And like flips him off and goes inside. Unfortunately, then Michael kills that man, and he goes, and there's an incredibly brutal scene where basically you don't see it happen, but you see him like chase Annie around, and you see it in these like slow-mo stills that Rob Zombie loves doing. And then we don't see till later where Lori comes home from a party with her friend who dropped her off because Lori was drunk. And they're downstairs making tea, and you know what's in the house. Michael's in there, and you know Annie's body's up there. And then when they're going to bed, she notices everything's messed up, and she goes into the bathroom, and there's Annie naked, covered in cuts. The ground, like the whole bathroom is covered in blood. Yeah. It is disturbing how much, and again, people forget how much blood is in the human body.
And it is what makes it so effective for me too is that it's like almost black looking. Yes. Which is like how you know it's like from deep inside whoever was bleeding.
And it's like a linoleum wall too. Like it is like crimson.
Yeah.
And then we realize like, oh shit, Annie's still alive. And one thing I also love, I want to say, when Lori realizes Michael's here, it's like it kicks on, right? Like we see like this side of her that she basically like her instead of going into flight, she goes into fight, right?
Yeah.
Like all this trauma is now forcing itself onto her, and she's fucking ready to go. Like she knows what happens. Like she's like, call 911, I'm gonna do this, blah blah blah. Like she has her shit figured out, which is so insane because you would never expect that. Like you expect her to see this and just completely break. Like her world is shattered. But it's just, it kicks in, you know? Yeah, and she goes, and it's so hard to watch because she's just holding Annie, and all she can say, like, it's almost like Lori is also in, like, disbelief. Because she's just saying, like, oh, baby, baby, baby. That's all she's saying. Like, like, she's like, stay awake, stay awake. And Annie is too weak to even tell her Michael's in the house. And this is a parallel from the first film, where Lori comes in, Annie's on the ground, near death, and she can't even make out words that Michael's in the house, and Lori needs to get out. And it's the same thing that happens. And then, of course, Annie dies in her arms, and then Michael comes in and chases and grabs Lori. But what's even harder is we see Brackett come home, you know?
Oh, God, yeah.
And that's the hard part, where... And it's so well done because like he's coming, like he's like something bad has happened. It's a 911 call. He doesn't know what's going on. He gets there, all these cops, and the cop's just like, you don't want to go in there. That's all he's telling me. He's like, you don't want to go in there. You don't want to go in there. And he does, and he just like breaks down, like on his knees, crying. And it's just like his daughter's naked, cut up corpse in a room full of her own blood, and he is giving like an incredible performance.
Oh my God, yeah. This is, I mean, that mirror death where where that stripper gets her face smashed in is kind of viscerally disturbing, but this is like emotionally disturbing just because of you don't even see the kill happen, but you just see everyone's reaction to it. And Brad Dorff's the Sheriff Brackett does an amazing job at portraying guilt in that moment, and it's like such a great performance. Like I just, it's just brutal. His reaction afterwards, where he's just in shock.
Yeah,
like,
he's just sitting outside.
Yeah, he's just sitting on the bench, like just like wide-eyed and staring out into nothing. Like it's just brutal.
And then when they're like, we know where Michael is, he's just like, okay. Like, you know, like he's just like,
yeah,
sure. And he's like, I think you should drive. You know?
Yeah.
It's so realistic. It's so hard to watch. And again, like I think you said, this just seems like it would come out of some weird indie movie. But this is a fucking Halloween movie.
Right.
Which is awesome.
There's a lot of like side characters in these movies that I think are objectively better than the original. Like this like Loomis I love in this more, and I also love Sheriff Brackett in the first one and this one. He's such a
sheriff's great.
Good character. Yeah.
And I like it because he doesn't, like the first and all the other sequels always like makes Loomis to be a madman. The sheriff, him and sheriff are always butting heads.
Oh yeah,
He's like, we gotta go here. And he's like, what are you talking about? You're crazy. Where this like Brackett seems much more reasonable. Like, I don't have anything to believe you, but maybe we should just in case. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And it also helps that I think Loomis is less of like a raving lunatic.
Yeah, he's not like waving a gun around screaming about how Michael is evil anymore.
Blowing up children.
Yeah.
Sending a mob after a child. Yeah. And yeah, then we get the ending where basically Michael has Lori and he's about to kill her, and the mom's like, do it, bring us home, you know? Loomis shows up, is able to talk Michael down, and Michael finally says the first thing we ever hear him say is like an adult, where he just goes, die, and then stabs him. It's awesome.
No, that's one of my big downsides of this movie.
I love it.
I think, well, I'm fine with having Michael talk, especially in this version. But like, I feel like when you have him talk, it needs to be something a lot more impactful than like something as obvious as just going die and then stabbing him.
You have to remember, this is like a 10-year-old brain. You know?
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I just imagine like, because Michael talking is such like a thing you don't do in Halloween movies.
Right.
That like when you do it, it has to be like as impactful as possible, and it can't be like some like mundane line of dialogue that you can figure out just by his actions and what he's doing in the scene. And that's like, he could have not said die and just stabbed him, and you would have gotten the same emotion out of it.
See, you know? I kind of read it as like, this is kind of Michael's breaking point, where I don't even think he realized he was saying it.
Yeah.
That was just like a thought, but he's so hopped up on emotions. Because also throughout this entire movie, because Michael's seeing all the advertisements for Loomis' book, he is putting almost mentally compartmentalizing all the blame onto Loomis. Like, I am here because of Loomis. I didn't get with Lori because of Loomis. I'm fucked up because of Loomis. So, like, to him, that confrontation, I think, just brings out so much rage that Michael can't even control his own faculties.
Right.
And that's why he talked.
That makes sense. I don't know. It just always rubbed me the wrong way, that line. I don't know. Personal preference again. It's like just me.
Yeah. Oh, it's fine. And again, like I think we've said this multiple times. I think this movie, whether you're either gonna love this movie or you're gonna hate this movie.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah.
But yeah, after Loomis gets stabbed, they gun down Michael. He's actually dead, thank God. And then Lori comes out of the shack, sees Loomis is still alive. Once again, placing blame onto Loomis because he fucked up her life. Because she was never told, basically, that she was Michael Myers' sister. And he basically outed her. Like imagine, like, it was basically like not only her entire life feels like a lie, but now it is directly connected to the reason why her life is so shit. So obviously it's gonna fuck her up. You know? Like, that's gonna break your brain. She sees Loomis still alive and goes, yeah, I'm gonna kill you. And then stabs him. And then the cops open fire, and it's so great because, like, you see Brackett immediately just be like, no, like after she's shot. Like, he is also in disbelief. Like honestly, Brackett's life is probably over after this. You know?
Oh my God, yeah.
Every person he loves is now gone.
Yeah, I can't imagine he had if he had a life after this, if he had a very good one, it was probably miserable.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah, and then we finally get this weird abstract scene with Laurie in purgatory, heaven.
Yeah.
I think it's up for your own interpretation.
Yeah.
I don't necessarily maybe see that from Laurie's perspective, though. Like, I think it may be from Michael's.
Oh, like Michael? That's Michael's vision in the afterlife or something?
Possibly.
Oh, okay. I mean, that's interesting.
When you think about it, you know, she's returning home, but it's interesting because honestly, all Michael really knows is the inside of that institution.
Yeah.
That he was stayed at. So it would make sense that his heaven would be like that, just as long as his family's together.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of what I was reading into it.
That's actually a good point because, yeah, I don't think Michael ever really regretted killing like his stepdad or Judith.
No,
like
absolutely not.
But he definitely was sad that his mom ended up killing herself. And
oh yeah,
that's actually a really good point. I didn't think about it like that, and that makes that whole scene and why it looks like that like makes so much more sense.
Because it wouldn't make sense. Why would Laurie smile?
Right.
I hope that I have persuaded you in some way.
No, you have it. Especially, I will say I think they're both okay. I don't think 2 is amazing, and I like 2 more than 1 though.
Okay.
Because I find 1 boring after the whole Michael origin thing. I think when it just goes through the original, but just like speed runs it, like that is not cool. That's not like fun to watch for me. But like this, I think takes it in such a weird direction, like the characters, that I just like it so much that it has like that Rob Zombie had the balls to even try to do this.
Oh yeah.
And I think he does a lot of it like really well. But I think my downsides come down to personal preference with Michael's portrayal as well. Like I felt like, because you know how Rob Zombie, he has to cast his wife in every movie he's in pretty much.
Yep.
So I felt like the whole mom being a vision thing was like him trying to come up with ways to like bring his wife back somehow. Mm-hmm. But I think he did it well, and doesn't like feel like that like obvious.
Yeah.
But
it doesn't feel too corny.
No, it doesn't. And some of the visuals of her as a ghost are legitimately scary. Like when she has like her eyes wide open and she's like looking down at like whoever Mike was killing. Yeah, it's really chilling. Like a lot of cool visuals with that. I just think that I don't really like that. It's like it feels so similar to like Jason Voorhees, where he's like being like,
yeah, it does kind of go down that route,
right? And I think it's executed well. I just don't know if I like that idea really. And then my other big complaint is I think the middle of the movie drags a lot, and is pretty boring. Like during the party scene specifically, when after Laurie finds out that she is Michael's sister, and she just goes out and she's like getting hammered with her friends. I just felt like that really wasn't going anywhere, and like it lasted for too long. But I really like the beginning, first act, and then the end of the movie a lot. And I think just because that's when the the whole arc is set up and then it gets payoff, you know. But yeah, no, I do agree with you. For the most part, I do really like this film.
You know what? I'll take it. I'll take it. One day down the line, you'll rewatch this and go, whoa, this is a masterpiece. Huh?
Yeah. I also just think Rob Zombie, another criticism as well that I think goes for both of these is he cannot resist putting in characters who say like really sleazy, obscene things.
Yep. He loves these like B-movie schlock characters.
Yeah. And I think in one of his own movies, that works because then it's like a horror comedy is the kind of vibe I get from a lot of his movies. But this feels like it wants to be straight up horror. But then you have like characters that say like weird trailer trash crap, like the guys at the beginning of the movie that are in the van carrying Michael's body.
Right. Oh yeah. What's the difference between jelly and jam?
Yeah.
I can't jelly my dick inside a dead girl. Yeah.
Like it's obviously horrible, but it's like funny in a morbid kind of way.
That's almost all of like the House of a Thousand Corpses trilogy, where you will go from laughing to then seeing the most fucked up thing you've ever seen.
Yeah.
And that's what Rob Zombie's really good at.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I think, and this is maybe why I got so much enjoyment out of these, is I was watching them from a Rob Zombie standpoint, not from I'm watching a Halloween movie standpoint. So I think if you're watching them with that mindset, you get a lot more enjoyment out of them.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think overall, a lot of my complaints kind of boil down to the fact that it's shackled by being a Halloween movie for both of these. Like, I think for most people, they're going to say the same thing, too, because they're going to be like, oh, you see Michael's face in the second one? You're never supposed to see his face.
That breaks the rules of Michael.
Yeah, he looks like a hobo in the second one. What the hell? He's supposed to be wearing the big giant coveralls and running around in that perfect white mask. Like,
yeah,
I really think like most people's criticisms have to do with that it's just shackled to this franchise. I honestly think if these were the exact same film, but like they were just like completely different characters and divorced from the Halloween brand, I think people would like these movies would be received so much better. Like,
I agree.
It would be a completely different realm. Yeah.
Yeah. It's got a lot of baggage.
Yeah, exactly.
Especially because, I mean, Halloween, like, is a household brand, you know? Everyone, there are people who have not seen Halloween, but know exactly who Michael Myers is.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
I mean, it was kind of like a big cultural thing. Well, all I'm going to say is that I hope for the ones listening that maybe didn't like these movies, especially not two, you kind of give them a second chance.
Yes, please reevaluate 2 for sure. Because I think of it from a franchise perspective, and I think of it just as its own film. Divorce it from the rest of them as well. Because it does so many interesting things that are different while also still being a good film on its own. May not be a great Halloween movie, but it's a good film.
And I will say right now, I'm dropping it right now. You ready for this controversial take?
Yes, I'm ready.
Halloween 2 Laurie is my favorite Laurie.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
I think it is the most interesting depiction of Laurie, and we kind of touched on this with H20. Where right now it's like the current Laurie is just a gun-toting crazy person that just set hell-bent on revenge. And I think that H20 didn't fully dedicate itself like Rob Zombie did dealing with trauma. Yeah. But I think H20 handles Jamie Lee Curtis well. But I just think that this Laurie is the most interesting and fun to watch.
Yeah, because it's so real. Like, there's no sugarcoating it in this. It's like,
oh no,
it's brutal, like brutal in its depiction of how someone would realistically react to what someone like her went through that night on Halloween. It's great. It's it's indie movie quality character stuff.
I recommend Halloween's Rob Zombies. They're a nice refresher after watching.
Oh yeah.
So many of them. But again, I think give them a shot. Watch them from a different perspective. Maybe hopefully applying everything we talked about here, and I think you will get a lot of enjoyment because I've dedicated myself. Like my goal in life now is to wake people up about Halloween 2. That's it.
Yeah.
Like if someone that I recommend Halloween 2 comes to me and says, "Wow, that was amazing," I can die happy. So, yeah. And again, it all comes down to personal preference, so don't attack us if you don't like it.
Yeah, I could see it from both perspectives. Like, I can see why a fan who had watched them since they were a kid, like he grew up with Michael Myers a certain way, he watched 4 through 6, like H20, even Resurrection. I can see why someone would be have such a strong reaction to 2, especially. And 1.
I even agree with your points that you made. Like, I understand those. However, I like it.
Yeah,
and again, personal preference.
Right. If you like it, it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. That should be
exactly
really the motto of our entire podcast. Like
that is, I think.
We're just a couple assholes with probably terrible opinions.
and too much knowledge on things that will not be practical in real life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Like I can unfortunately ramble on probably for an hour about each Halloween timeline to a complete stranger. So
I'm right there with you. It's one of my flaws.
One of our flaws is we talk too much about Michael Myers.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you for listening. Next, we're going to get to the current timeline. Which is some exciting stuff. And that stuff is a lot, I think, more fresh in our mind. And we have a lot less, I think, emotional attachment to them because they are so new. Mm-hmm. They're not ingrained in our minds from childhood. So that should be interesting to get into. And hopefully I want to see how close we can predict ends will end. Because I think it'll be fun.
Yeah, I just want it to be good.
Yeah, I think that's all we can hope for right now.
We're just hoping to God that it will actually end like it says it's going to.
Yeah, but we're going to stay to see if there's an end credit scene.
I know there will be.
You know there will be. It's just going to be Michael's hand coming from the grave, something cheesy like that.
Oh my God.
They're going to do like the end of fucking Batman vs. Superman, right? What, didn't it end with like the grave, like the ground thumping or something?
Oh yeah, no, it did. Yeah, it was the
like
dirt on the top of his coffin started rising in the air.
Yeah. So hopefully Michael doesn't do that. I just want him dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
As much as I love the guy, I want him dead. So, all right. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you next time.